Anyway, hello. Today I'm going to continue watching this video. In this video, I'm going to continue watching this video. I'm going to stream this video. I'm going to finish it so I can get on to watching the C++ documentary. I started it like yesterday, but was it even yesterday or was it 2 days ago? Yeah, it was yesterday. I started watching it for like an hour and a half. And then I ran out of time. I had to go somewhere. But now I can just sit here and finish the video properly. I only made like half an hour of progress. The first half an hour was me just fucking explaining like my notes I already took, which I'm not going to do again for this one. I think in the last video I took like this much notes. So really not that many notes, but still, you know. Like I said in the previous video, I'm only going to be taking notes on the things I actually need to. And then once I finish, I'm going to go ahead and put it into my Zettelkasten. If you don't know what a Zettelkasten is, go and look it up. You can even look it up on my channel if you want, although my videos are like 3 hours long, so I don't know how much success you're going to have for understanding it that way. But that is Zettelkasten. In fact, I have a playlist for Zettelkasten stuff, so go ahead and check that out too. But without further ado, let's continue. Just finished the part on abstraction performance. Next we have AI, motivation, quotes, and some reflections. Let's have a look.
Look at the industry today.
Also, actually, before I continue, if you know any videos or like any interviews with Bjarne, or just really like any C++ members of like the C++ committee talking about Rust, I'd be very interested. Or Zig, because Bjarne talks a lot about things like comparative development and like having the compiler catch things for you, which, you know, Rust obviously does a lot, like memory safety. And like it got me thinking, why have I never seen an interview with Bjarne where he talks about Rust, right? Because Rust has those things, and I did a quick like search on YouTube, Bjarne Stroustrup, Rust, and I found nothing, like literally fuck all. So I do wonder what there is out there in regards to that. And again, with like Zig and stuff as well, I'm very curious. And even just in general, like a lot of these people talk like say, you know, like they don't understand the language wars, and like really like they're stupid and like they're silly, and like obviously I agree with that. But then why not talk about other languages more and like kind of compare them? Because I think that's, you know, rather than like the next step after dismissing the language wars is to then do the useful thing, which is look at other languages and not like copy them, but like see what works, what doesn't work, why your language, you know, is justified being different from theirs, and so on. I mean, for C++, the reason will always be existing code bases, but like either way, like why are you not just copying Rust, you know, bar for bar? Why are you doing things that are different? That's that's the kind of rationale that I want to kind of research with people like Bjarne and Andrew Kelly. Like I tried to look for Andrew Kelly's thoughts on Rust as well. Didn't find much at all, which is also kind of annoying. And like I just say annoying because, like, you know, I want to find these things. So hopefully, yeah, hopefully there's stuff out there, whether it's Bjarne, Andrew Kelly, I don't know, Herb Stutter, or even like the guy. This guy has entered my feed recently. He made, what's the language called? I think like J something, J-A-I, right? That guy. Like just anything really. Like I really want to see some proper comparison between languages and their features, because a lot of people just like use what they use. They're like, oh, I love this feature in Rust, you know, and like they've never used it in like other languages anyway. So like what they end up saying is just completely wrong anyway. Or like someone was talking about how much they love Go error handling, even though Go error handling is like notoriously terrible because you have nils and nulls instead of using like result types or something. So yeah, like I want an opinion from someone who knows what they're talking about, you know. And maybe that's the thing, you know, like maybe these people just haven't really used like other languages that much. Like I doubt Bjarne has used a whole ton of Rust or Zig. I doubt Andrew Kelly's used a whole lot of Zig, although he has obviously used a lot of C. I don't know how much C++ he's used. And like usually when people talk about C++ as well, like they talk about the typical stuff. Like I want to really like hear people talk about modern C++ and like why that isn't working, you know. That's the interesting stuff. So if you know anything about that, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will find them myself, I guess. I do have a lot of articles here as well that I want to read through. Not need to, but I want to read through. So I'll get around to that a bit as well. But anyway, my plan is to finish this video, then watch the C++ documentary, and then there are a bunch of CPP-Con talks I just want to go through. But I do want to go through these articles because my list, clearly, of things to watch is quite, and read through is getting quite long now. I also have fucking library books to go through, but anyway.
More and more of code is being written by
AI. Artificial intelligence.
Code that was cleverly and correctly optimized in the 1990s are often pessimized today.
Pessimized is
because machine architectures
the opposite
have changed,
of optimized, or
and the compilers have improved.
When I look at the industry today,
in fact, I don't know why I didn't do this before. Pessimization is opposite of optimization, more or less. Pessimization. It's gonna tell me it's spelled wrong because it's not really a common word. That should be an arrow. Yeah.
more and more of code is being written by machines than humans. And I feel like a lot of programming language design is thinking about how do you make it amenable to humans solving problems and writing the code. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts on if you think programming language design will change if more and more of the code is written by models and machine.
I'll say this about AI. Well, I mean, there's two things. Like, the first thing, my first thought is that AI doesn't care about verbosity, so it'd work a lot better with kind of like LLVM, right? Like that kind of IR, intermediate representation of a language, where it's so verbose, like no human would want to write it, but an AI doesn't care. So like that extra information of verbosity is really useful to them. But the other side of that is tokens. I believe the more characters it has to process, the more tokens you use up, which is just it's I mean, it's data. It makes sense. But yeah, I guess that's like the main difference that I think of.
I think that in the field I'm mostly interested in, code will still be written by humans, and they will use abstraction. The examples I've seen of attempts for AI to generate code in this domain has not been successful. They generate more bugs, more security holes. They have bloated code, which pessimize again because you use more memory. And it's hard to validate. And the senior developers that would be needed to validate it, I've seen some of them starting to retire because they don't want to deal with the validation of something that changes every time you make a change in your code, in your prompts.
Yeah, by the way, something I don't really get, and maybe someone can explain to me, why is AI non-deterministic? Like, why not just have it give the same, like, I mean, obviously, like, different people have different preferences, different backgrounds, like, the AI can, like, I don't know, optimize its response for the type of person you are. That I understand, but even within those, like, preferences, personalization, it's still non-deterministic. So, like, if you have two, like, identical portfolios or profiles, the AI gives different answers, which means you just get inconsistent results and sometimes wrong results. Like, as far as I understand, there's like a dice roll of what you would get, such that what you can get can just sometimes be wrong. Maybe I misunderstand that, but like, especially for code, you want consistency.
And furthermore, a lot of the things I think about, there's regulatory bodies, there's validation. You have to be able to validate what you changed when you make a change. And the AIs, the tools change. Even if you make a slight difference in prompt, a lot of the code will change, and you have to now check it again. All of the code that was generated, and there was more code generated than if it was written by humans. And when a human make a change, it'll make a change that's localized, and you can look for the effects of that localized change. If an AI writes it, you don't actually know where it's changed. You have to try to figure that out. So, if you're doing something that has been done many times before, you write a standard web app. What you say is correct. Also, AI is not useless. That's not what I'm saying. It can be used to write documentation. Again, it has to be humanly validated, but it helps write things. It's good at text.
It is.
It's not, at least now, good at safety critical, performance critical code.
Because when we talk about AI, we're not talking about like, I don't know, programming AI. We're talking about LLMs, right? Large language models, text processing on crack. Like, it's just we're taking LLMs and like applying it to so many different domains that are outside the scope of what it's kind of intended for, or even like really capable of doing. And like simply just throwing more data at it is only gonna be so effectful, right? Really, we need just like other forms of AI that aren't just text prediction, and I'm sure there are. I'm sure there's more to like. Well, I hope there's more to like Claude and ChatGPT than just text prediction these days. But I don't know.
Now, let's say that 70 or 80% of the code, or of the world's code, doesn't fit that pattern, but it's that 10, 20% of the code that I'm interested in. And there, it's not there, and I don't see it coming with the LLM model. Furthermore, LLM, when fed with training data, has to be trained with old code. And my job, as I see it, is to make sure people write new things and use new techniques that are improvement over the old code. So I find that LLM-based code is imitating old code and getting old performance and old bugs. Again, maybe you can improve that. I hear rumors of Bjarne apps being written that's fed my writings, but even that is problematic because I'm not saying exactly the same as I did 20 years ago. But anyway, we'll see. Also, even Dijkstra was looking into the possibility, and he claimed that the idea of having natural languages being the programming language was idiotic. He is less polite than I am.
Fun fact, yeah. I read the book about that. I literally read the book. Dijkstra's whatever, I can't remember which one it was now. Did I read it? Maybe I didn't read it. Maybe I read a book by Donald Knuth where he talks about Dijkstra. But yeah, like, the idea is natural human language is so shit. It's so non-specific and so annoying to learn as well that if you were to use it for programming, it'd be disastrous. Like, there's a reason we have dedicated programming languages. It's because they're precise and fairly easy to learn. And, you know, like, transferable and all that. Try, like, learning fucking a human language in, like, the same time you can learn a programming language. Good luck. And, like, you know, like, there's an argument that, okay, but, you know, you really know English, so then just use English, you know? And then, you don't have to learn English, you already know English, right? But then, like, a lot of people also aren't that great at English either. So, like, it's just, it's not great, you know, it's not great. And even, like just look at documentation, right? How many times do you look at documentation and you're just like, I don't understand what's going on here? Like, if people can't write good documentation, you think they can write, and like, I mean like top level stuff too. Like, the documentation can be so confusing, so hard to read and understand. But it's like, like, how do you expect AI with natural language to be any better? We don't need natural language. We need different things, right? So, like, there's the idea that vibe coders, they're still coding because they're using natural language to program stuff. Like they're still, you know, like, they're still telling the AI what to do, just like with declarative code in human language. But because it's not specific, and because the agent as well is, again, non-deterministic and unpredictable, quite frankly, it's like, what do you like, how is that going to be more effective than just precise writing code instead? Now, an idea is a prompting language, a specific syntax for prompting AI to then go ahead and generate code. But like that's just a programming language, with a compiler, an AI assisted or AI powered compiler. Like it really isn't that like different from what we have now. Just like a more advanced version of that. That's what I want, by the way. But instead, what we have is people just wasting resources because like AI isn't cheap to use either. So I don't know, man.
And I think that a language like English is very flexible, and what we say is often very ambiguous. We need a programming language that's precise. That's engineering, that's math. It's not English.
And
like it's common sense as well, honestly. So let me write that.
The idea of having, again, maybe you can improve that. I hear rumors of Bjarne apps being written. That is problematic because I'm not C. Also,
Also, just like vibe coding is so weird to me. It's like LARPing, you know, LARPing central. I guess, but it's like you don't understand what you're writing. The people who do understand what they're writing, you know, and like what's going on behind the scenes, they don't like using AI because they understand that it's not, that it's flawed, and that they can do better by just writing by hand. So it's like who's that actually benefiting besides the AI companies and people making like pet projects that will never see the light of day? I don't know. And like where AI, it can be like AI written code can be beneficial in some spaces, like the fucking the baggage that comes with it of having to maintain that code and have people review it. It's a lot. So natural human language is, what's the word? Is ill-fitting for programming computers, for computer programming, for computer programming, due to its imprecise and ambiguous nature. That's like the best sentence I've written in like fucking months. Yeah. Really, we need we need precise languages with precise syntax and grammar rules that are more predictable and easier to reason about than AI generated code. Than prompts to an AI. And what else was I saying? Like AI, at the end of the day, modern AI are LLMs, large language models that are trained on old code, on existing data, meaning that that AI learn programming from artificial intelligences, learn programming from modern artificial intelligence. Yeah, whatever. Learn programming from old code. Which means they are prone to making old mistakes. Okay, I was kind of like thinking something else there, but what was I saying? Natural human language is bad. English, you know, you learn it, but yeah, that's it really.
Even Dijkstra was looking into the possibility, and he claimed that
Dijkstra
the idea
is one
of
such
having
person.
natural languages being the programming language was idiotic. He is
One thing I saw in a profile that you did is they asked you what keeps you going on C++ or what motivates you. And you said one is the fun of kind of building the future. And the second thing was the obligation to make sure C++ moves forward. And like when you started C++, I can't imagine you knew that you were embarking on a journey for decades. And so
not decades, but I knew it was a longer journey because I knew I couldn't build the language I wanted.
This man has said that he has tried to retire multiple times in the past and failed, which is gig-based, you know. Retirement is a scam.
I could build a subset of it.
Job you love, you know.
And there was two reasons for that. One was, well, I was the team that did it. Secondly, so lack of resources, lack of time. And secondly, I didn't have the input needed to make sure that what I designed was right. And so we have the engineering issue, build what you can, see what works, improve it. And so I knew I was getting into something like that. I knew I was building a language meant to evolve. And meant to evolve means that you make certain decisions in knowing that is different. For instance, that's one reason C++ wasn't just a object-oriented programming language, because I could see in the world that there was things that didn't seem to fit that paradigm. And so I knew we would evolve. The other half of that answer to that question, what keeps me going, is applications. It's really nice to see interesting uses and such. So I was at JPL and I talked to the people who was doing the Mars rovers. That's cool stuff. I've been to CERN. I'm going to CERN this summer to see how you do high energy physics. I don't know anything about high energy physics. Well, probably more than the average, but nowhere near being a physicist. And so you can go there and see they do interesting things, and there's things that surprise you. So I was talking to a guy in CERN some years ago, and his job was to open and close doors. These doors weigh a couple of tons and are made of lead, and they move across to close off an area to protect against radiation or something like that. I don't know the details, but the point is he has to start up this door, which is not too hard. You have engines. But then you have to make sure you stop it, because when you have a couple of tons this wide going into a wall, it will not stop normally. You have to write. And the code for that was interesting. I learned something. And I still travel around and talk to people and see what C++ is being used for and what it can be used for and what it can't be used for. Just learning. And learning is fun.
Learning is fun. I wonder what he's come across then for what C++ can't be used for. I do wonder about that. Yeah.
a few quotes that you have, which I thought would be interesting.
That other languages can be, to clarify.
Kind of, if you could just give some context behind them. Well, one of the quotes is, C makes it easy to shoot yourself in the foot.
Oh, yeah.
C++ makes it harder, but when you do it, it blows your whole leg off.
These quotes are on Bjarne's website, and he literally explains them because of how, not misquoted he is, but like misunderstood his quotes can be. Although to be fair, with like banger quotes like that, people are going to take them a bit out of context.
Yeah. I somebody asked a question at a talk I was given in Boston back in the 80s, and I shot that one back, not thinking. But it's a good quote, and it's correct. Arno Penzias, who's got a Nobel Prize in physics, so he's not a nobody, was one trying to explain to a large group of Bell Labs managers about C++. And he says you can't have a power tool without knowing how to use it. So if you have a saw, you saw like this. If you have a power saw and you try and do that, it'll bounce. And you will have to be very lucky not to get hurt. Notice it's roughly the same story. And so what is behind that is if you get a power tool and you misuse it, you will get more problems. Get a car that can accelerate faster and it can wrap you around a tree in a way an old-fashioned slow accelerating car can't. It's fundamental to having power tools.
You also have this other great quote. It's nobody should call themselves a professional if they only know one language. Obviously, you'd recommend people learn C++, but if they had to know a second or a third language for the sake of, being a better engineer or programmer, what would you recommend?
Haskell. Straight up. If you have only programmed in imperative languages like C, C++, Java, JavaScript, Rust, maybe, because Rust is, obviously an intersection between the two paradigms, which is, to be fair, a good reason to learn Rust. It's just really difficult. But yeah, otherwise learn Haskell, because I don't love Haskell. It's kind of annoying to use. It's functional programming. It could be still way more ergonomic. Like the fucking namespaces issues are just ridiculous, and no overloading and all that kind of thing. But it does change the way you think about programming. So, highly recommend. Surely he'll say like some kind of ML, right?
Yeah, and if you've seen that interview, you'll know I waffle on that deliberately. It is not so much which other languages you know, but that you get a set of ideas that are embedded in those languages.
And Haskell is great because the ideas in that language are so different from what you're used to in imperative programming. So like even if you don't like a lot of the features, like I don't, there are it's literally, it wasn't created to be this new way of programming. Like Haskell was created to literally be a language for research purposes. So like obviously it's gonna be imperfect. It's just like the interesting ideas we take away from it are really cool, and that's what has made like Rust the language it is today, right? Because Rust takes lots of inspiration from languages like Haskell and OCaml.
So what you should do is to learn languages that are different from yours. And I'm not too fuzzy about which languages they were. I think I said learn a scripting language. Today that would be Python or JavaScript. Then I guess it was Unix shell or something like that. Have a look at a functional language. ML or Haskell would be obvious solutions. Or just pick something different. The point is that you mustn't get stuck with just what's in your language. It's like, it's not good for you to be monoglot. I mean, it's like, it's not good for you to be monoglot. I mean...
Monoglot? What's that mean?
You know what you call somebody who knows 3 languages, trilingual, who knows 2 languages, bilingual, 1 language, American. Is a very popular joke, at least outside America. And it's the same idea with programming languages, but it's more important with programming languages, I think, because...
The irony is that a British person is probably less likely to know 2 languages than a fucking American. Because like at least America has like Spanish as a second language officially, nationally. English, England.
You're building things, and you should broaden your mind with ideas and techniques.
Obviously, I've done a lot of fucking exploration in my time, right? And by obviously, I mean for those who know my history a bit. Like, I've made it like I specifically got out of my way to learn new languages for fun. Partly for fun, partly also because I don't know, it's useful. Like, sorry, partly because it's useful, but also just because it was fun. Like fun was the main factor. So obviously C++, Haskell at university, C# for Unity, right? React for website development. Though I mean, those four were like things I kind of had to do anyway. I mean, C++ didn't have to do, but I did because I chose it. Haskell I had to do. C# I had to do for Unity. So I was like, yeah, fuck it, C++ is similar enough. But like, even though I had to, you know, like I had strong requirements to then use that language. Like, I still obviously chose to do it. So there is that as well. I won't give myself too little credit. Then React for making Kojo modding, .com, because I wanted to just try web development like that. For Godot, I wanted an excuse to use Godot, so I started making this wave editor. Not great so far, to be honest. The language seemed like, specifically the language, GDScript, seemed promising at first, but honestly now I'm thinking more about switching to like C# or something, because it kind of just falls short in ways that it shouldn't. Lua, I was also kind of forced to learn, but then there are languages I haven't been forced to learn at all, and these ones I've only dabbled with, though. Really, I could probably, yeah, like I've dabbled with them, but like considering I've made like a fucking calculator in OCaml, it's not that like surface level. But yeah, like Rust, I've chose to learn. OCaml I chose to learn for my calculator. Didn't have to. I just thought I would because that's what Rust was made in, and OCaml was, you know, is also like an extension of ML in a way. C, obviously. I mean, I'm obviously going to use C. Assembly I did at university, but also just for a bit of fun. But also for reverse engineering. TypeScript I played around with a little bit, but like very little bit. Java I had to do for university. I hate that language. I will never use it again if I can avoid it. Kotlin exists, but so I do want to try Kotlin. I'll say that. Python I also don't like, but it's obviously very useful to learn, and I probably will end up using it at some point soon anyway. And I do actually want to use more Python, not just because it's so popular, but because it's a scripting language, and my experience with scripting languages is not huge. Like, although Python is an easy language by all means, I struggle to use it because I'm used to having languages that have like proper structure, and like I know what's going on behind the scenes. With Python, you don't have that, so it's difficult in different ways for me. JavaScript, yeah, whatever. Zig is a language I want to learn. Carbon I want to, well, once it becomes commercial, I guess, or at least like released. Go is a language I want to learn, although I'm not as interested in it just because it's garbage collected. You could like make an argument that like, okay, but then you can learn how to use a garbage collector, but like I already have C# for that. I don't really care too much. For me, the Go thing I care more about is the syntax. Nim is mildly interesting, although the more interesting one for that is Odin, which I don't have on this list for some reason. Verse is very interesting, Unreal Engine's language. Ruby for web development. Curry is just like Haskell, but an extension of it, so that might be interesting. Fortran is just old ass language. Lisp also old ass, but also very ongoing. It'd be good to learn Lisp. Like, if you think Haskell challenges the way you think about programming, Lisp goes like even further, right? And then you have like this Japanese language, which is interesting actually. It uses natural Japanese language for programming, and although English may not be great, I think Japanese is probably also not great either actually. Yeah, never mind. But anyway, it's just interesting to look at that too. But yeah, other languages that I don't have here, like Odin I want to look at. Jai I'm also interested in, although I'm aware that Jai isn't particularly like public. But yeah, I think Odin is the biggest one on my list right now. In fact, I've already started using it over here. I've installed the compiler already, and also C3. Yeah, C3 and Odin are two languages I really want to get into more. They're not on this list because I haven't updated it in a while, but like they would easily be at the top of this list, above Zig, above Nim and all that. Like those are my top priorities right now. But that is to say that, as someone who also has gone on my way to learn languages, different languages, both in programming and also in real life, you know, Spanish, Japanese, Chinese, I do think that it really does, like, just the, like, if you are someone like me who've used the human mind as a deterministic model, let's say. You know, like you feed it input and then it will give a specific output, right? Like the human brain is predictable, basically, is what I'm getting at. Then the best thing you can do, you know, logically, is to just feed yourself as much diverse input as you can, because then your brain will take it and produce, have more tools, you know, more knowledge to produce output. Yeah, I mean, like, that isn't true for all deterministic models, but like your brain is such a model that it takes input, and then the more input it takes, the smarter it gets, so that it can be modify itself, literally modify its own like structure to then create better outputs. So logically, get better inputs, right? Get broader inputs. There you go. And obviously, if you're a programmer, then the best thing you can do is learn multiple programming languages, right? I'm not sure what else you could really do. I mean, obviously, like different programming projects as well. Try doing different things. So a variety of projects and a variety of languages would be very good for you.
Another quote is people who think they know everything really annoy those of us who know we don't. And I was curious the context behind that, or your thoughts on.
Well, that's very simple. There's so many people who think there's simple solutions to just about everything in the world. In this context, they
just use OOP. Oh, and Kotlin, by the way. C3, Odin, and Kotlin. I really wouldn't care about Kotlin that much, but like, just because it is like a better JavaScript, better Java. Not only do I view it as a replacement for Java, but also C#. So I'm quite curious. I think no, C# isn't getting anything. I don't think. There's F#, but that's another story.
They'll come and tell me how much simpler C++ could be, and this is true. If you only want to do one thing, usually the one they have in mind, you can make a much simpler language. But this is like, if we threw away this part of C++, it will be much simpler and nicer. Usually they want to throw away things like C. So, but then you annoy a few million people. And you don't actually succeed because they'll stick to the old stuff. So it's a way of
a few million
expressing my frustration with people who oversimplify. People think they can program without being learning to program. They think they can be engineers without learning engineering. They think they can be politicians without knowing how to run a company or a country. Oversimplification annoys me. And I probably shouldn't express annoyance. I very rarely do. But in this particular case, my frustration showed.
Yeah. I really want to like figure out what is it that makes programming and computer science so like reflective of wider everything. Like, not only does computer science intersect with maths, you know, because obviously like computation, psychology, because computers are in a way like we're programming brains, you know, like intelligent machines. Like we talk about artificial intelligence because it's intelligence that's artificial, right? So psychology obviously is going to have a role in that, but then also like sociology and like linguistics as well, because like we are interacting with humans, and you have like user experience design, which is a big part of programming. Programmers who disregard UX make shitty applications that no one wants to use or will like hate to use, and just be like annoy people, you know, lower their quality of life, so, and potentially shorten their lifespans with stress. So really important. And then also like politics, because when you make a project with programming, it's so important that for it to be maintained well, like there's a politics to sharing software, contributing to software, having projects and like project leads, you know, people are engineering things, right? And with great power comes great responsibility. Programming has immense power, you know. So like you can't just put anyone in charge of a programming project and expect it to go well. You need someone who like understands the project and like what it needs, how it will evolve. It's dynamic as well because programming is a dynamic environment. There's also so high programming is probably the hardest thing a human can do. I feel. Is that controversial to say? Like, yes, it's hard to like, I don't know, do like PhD in mathematics or like win a Nobel Prize, right? But at the same time, first of all, because so many fields overlap with computer science, you do need to like be good in different areas, in different domains. So like already like you will probably be able to compete. Like for example, like with abstraction, if you're like a top tier programmer who like understands abstractions, you could probably compete with the the level, the competence of abstraction with like I don't know like a Nobel Prize maths winner or something like that. I don't know. I'm definitely oversimplifying here, ironically, but because programming is so difficult, like you have to keep memory in mind, maintainability in mind, like the cleanness of the code. You have to keep UX in mind. You have to keep like the actual functionality of it in mind. You have to be able to debug things on the run. You want to add a new feature. Well, like you probably don't want to just rebuild the whole thing from scratch. Like you have your own lifetime limitations in mind. Like okay, what's actually feasible? You have to be thinking about okay, what is computationally feasible, let alone time wise feasible. Because like I'm just one guy. You have to interact with other people. Like it's really difficult, and you do that constantly. Like you're constantly just like while typing at a keyboard, trying to like use like fucking software and hardware, like good keyboards, good software, switch from VS Code to NeoVim because NeoVim is more efficient, and then like look at like JetBrains now because JetBrains has an IDE, but maybe but I can't use like be efficient in that one, like whatever. Learn your languages as well. You have to learn new languages and become competent in other languages that like are like English-ish, but like not really. And complete different paradigms as well. Like you have to know like patterns, so many patterns that would put other like I don't know like, but like it's practical too. So yeah, it's really not easy to be a top tier programmer. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really interesting. Like I just don't know why it's so relevant to everything. Because like if I take some other job like fucking like owning a restaurant, right? But like, even then, like if you own a restaurant, like you have to be able to manage people in the kitchen. You have to again like have like the customer in mind while also making good food, and like people want to think about like having healthy food, as opposed to just like profiting for junk. I mean, so it's like same programming. Like you want to write good code as opposed to just writing to fill a quota, right? So like maybe it's just all jobs are just fucking awesome, and like have high applications. But programmers are probably the ones who have the greatest ability to recognize that and then transfer those skills to other domains. That's my theory. Because when you're programming, what you're doing is again like you're working constantly with patterns. You learn how to solve a problem, and then you solve that problem using code, and then you do it in other languages, and like you want to create like abstractions for common patterns so that you can reduce the amount of work you need to do, and then make more efficient tooling so then you are spending less time doing tedious things and more time doing actual like design importance things, and like that just keeps on developing and evolving, right? And because you're doing that, naturally, that ability to abstract stuff and like apply things to different situations will naturally also make you see how the other parts of programming, like linguistics, politics, etc., you probably just have like a better ability to recognize and make use of those connections if you wanted to. And also like if you're competent enough. Like not all programmers are like what I describe anyway, but I'm talking like top tier, like people who love programming, you know, like people who really like feel it in their soul, you know. Yeah, a bit of like a side talk, but I do really wonder, and like, why am I so interested in programming? Because like I can give all these reasons for why I love programming, the ones I just listed, basically, and also like I guess the other thing that really solidifies programming for me is that it's useful. Like you can own a restaurant, right? But ultimately your reach is going to be limited. And like you can learn how to cook, but again, like your reach will be limited. Really, if you make a real impact, you become like a food researcher, a nutritionist who learns like the intricacies of how different diets affect people in different ways, and how people can live better based on what they eat, right? Like that's really cool. And like with a programmer, you can write so many things, and help other fields too. Like say that nutritionist needs to do like research on this thing, and like needs like data to be computed for like to figure out things out. A programmer can just do that, because I mean not just do that, but like you would get someone who knows programming to do that. And if you know how to program, then you can do that. Or like let's say you are the nutritionist, but before you got interested in nutrition, you were actually a programmer who studied computer science and worked at like, I don't know, some company. And then because of that, you can use your programming ability to then help you with your research, right? And this is why like in university I've noticed that biology students, medical students learn like R, which is like a statistics programming language. Engineers learn like MATLAB, and they use like how to use Python. Like they learn how to program because it's incredibly important, right? So if you're someone who literally dedicates their life to programming, or well, not life, but like your career to programming, then because you're just so able to do that, to program stuff, it gives you a lot of power, a lot of power, the kind of power that a Swiss Army knife gives you, but like obviously way more. Yeah. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere, kind of in response to C++ being difficult for some people who have the perspective of, you know, programming should be approachable, and, you know, anyone can learn programming. And I think you expressed the opinion that C++ is not necessarily for everyone. It's for serious programmers.
Yeah. I mean, the first line of the C++.
So again, the med students will learn R, the engineers will learn MATLAB. If you're studying computer science, like just as an aside, if you're studying computer science, and you don't want to, like you don't have the motivation to learn a language like C++ and become really good at it, then you're probably not a serious programmer. And like it's no wonder that your job gets taken by these other people who like learned R or like MATLAB or Python in some other course, you know. Like of course like they're going to replace you because they have the language, the programming skills for that field, so they're going to use it. I feel like if you can study computer science and go down the route of software development, specifically software development, you know, like if you do data science or AI, whatever, that's like another route. But like if you're going to be writing code, you can't afford to not like writing code and be serious about writing code, and like enjoy writing code, and like literally do it for fun. Because like otherwise, why are you doing it then? Like why are you doing software engineering if you don't like writing code? Maybe you just like making apps. I don't know. But yeah, like C++. Again, like with power. What makes C++ different from other languages, right? It's the power. You have literally control over not everything, but like you have a lot more control than you do from Python. A lot more flexibility, more performance as well. Like you have the power to do more with C++. But you only get that power by being a serious programmer. So that's why I'm interested in becoming a serious programmer, because I want that power, you know, to do things. And it's also why I look for other languages. Like Zig seems more powerful than C, just because of how much more flexible it appears to be. especially in regards, especially because like it's one of the first languages, like popular languages, that really pays attention to data, and like how we can optimize how data is laid out and stuff like that. So, Zig is an interesting language, but the ergonomics scare me, or like lack of thereof.
Programming
thereof.
language version 1, first edition, was C++ is designed to make life more pleasant for the serious programmer. And I took away the first version, which was professional, because I saw amateurs that was really, really good. So a serious programmer is probably programming for somebody else. If you program for yourself, it doesn't matter. It's you, and that's your problem. If you do it for your friends, you can lose friends. If you build something for 1 million people, you can do harm in the world.
Yes.
And so that's what it's for.
Great power comes great responsibility.
I mean, Gildo van Rossum built Python with the explicit aim of allowing many people, or everybody, to program. And he succeeded. I designed C++ to be a really good tool for serious programmers, for engineers and mathematicians and such, and I succeeded too. It's just not the same problem. Remember where we started? I said, the problem, look at the problem, and then learn from what worked and what doesn't.
Looking back on C++ and the whole journey, is there any part where you think, oh, that was a mistake, or something that you learned from in the design?
Many times I learned something.
Sorry, I was thinking something else.
Looking back on C++ and the whole journey, is there any part where you think, oh, that was a mistake, or something that you learned from in the design?
Many times I learned something. I think most of the things never made it into C++. That's what you have experiments for. And that's what you have initial uses for. I think I got the major part of the language right. And I think I could improve every single detail. But stability, compatibility is essential. If you make an insignificant change, it will annoy a few people and it wouldn't matter. If you make a significant change, you will annoy a lot of people and it will not work, because say 1 million people will stick to the old way. So I try to grow the language without breaking it. I have this thing that happens again and again. I explain it. People come up and say to me, C++ is too complicated. Yeah. You must simplify it. And I need these 2 features. I need them yesterday. You must, when you're doing this, give me these 2 features. Yes. And whatever you do, don't break my code. I have 1 million lines of it. That doesn't work. That's impossible. And so that is why I'm working on coding guidelines and on profiles, which is enforced guidelines.
I've got to read these.
That way you can
guidelines.
design a profile that ensures that you can use the libraries that you need and ensure that you don't misuse the features that are unnecessary and dangerous in your field.
For anyone who wants to learn C++, I think a common question is like, what is the top technical book recommendation that you would have?
Learn modern C++. There's a book I wrote when I was teaching undergrads. This is accidental. I didn't mean it to be there, but Anyway, this is the second edition of Programming Principles and Practice Using C++. This is a big fat book written for undergrads. The third edition is not as thick because the language has improved.
I don't know if I have these in my library, unfortunately, my school library. Next year there's a C++ module for about half a semester or so. So I might, although I'm not enrolled in it because I felt it'd be kind of pointless to learn C++ again because I already know it, I would just dedicate my time to learning like JavaScript and I mean not just JavaScript and PHP because that's kind of a side I haven't really touched too much. But I might ask the professor if we have these books because I'm curious. I wonder if he's met Bjarne. I wonder too. Maybe he'll be my entry into the C++ social world. But yeah, these books are interesting. In my library I do have the C++ book itself, like the book that teaches you how to use C++, like all like the standard library stuff basically. The forward stuff is interesting. Like the introduction is interesting. The actual like details or like what like vector and all that, those are less interesting. And just look at like whatever. But this book is interesting. And there's another one about the evolution and design of C++, something like that. That's also by Bjarne. It's like green or whatever. That book I have to read. But I don't want to read it online. I think I have it downloaded though, so somewhere. Yeah, where is it actually? I do have like the PDF on some device, but I do want to read this badly. It is quite old, like 2013, but it's still very, very good. But yeah, there's a third edition of that book. I wonder what else other books there are actually. Publications like includes like everything and anything. So concept-based generic programming. I do want to read this. I thought I had it bookmarked, but I guess I don't. So I'll just bookmark it now. Yeah, these books are great. Yeah, this book I've read, not fully, but like a decent amount of it. I mean, sorry, not fully. I've read the introduction and stuff, and I've read some of the like the standard library stuff, but like I've read all like the important stuff, let's say. This book. Wait, this book is actually old. 1994. God damn. That would be crazy to read then. But yeah, that book I definitely want to get my hands on. And then this book with the principles and practice, that's pretty cool. I do wonder how that would be, because like it's not really targeted at hardcore programmers. It's targeted at like I said, undergrads, right? So I did not mean to click on that book. This is TC++PL. Yeah, that's right. Like the C++ like that. That's the book that you don't really need to read these days. Bro, that's crazy. He has responses to like reviews. Man, people are pricks, you know that? Like I don't know why, but people are just a bit priggy.
I can actually get the ideas across better with less text. But use the latest C++, learn the modern way first. Don't start learning all the bad ways of writing C as the starter. And a lot of courses still says you learn C first, So you learn to misuse malloc and pointers, and then later you can learn how to use a vector and a string and not have the problems. But yeah, profile.
I used to say that it would be good to read to learn C first as well, but my opinion on that has it changed? I mean, I've got like pushback on that. Like people have said, no, if you do that, you'll learn like bad habits and you'll learn to write C++ like a C programmer, which is true. There was a time for like a few months at least where I did not know how to use classes and didn't learn it because I just struggled to really get my head around it. This was like self-studying, so like I don't have like a teacher or anything to help me that. So I wrote C++ very C-like. Not like to like any like particular strong degree. I mean, like really my projects have not been so impressive, but yeah. Anyway,
Files are there to be able to have a compiler and static analyzer
profiles will be
support
huge.
for that kind of thinking. And educators are asking for something like that too. A lot of people think the profile simply is to deal with memory, safety and performance. No, it has to give people a better tool, both for learning and for doing specific kinds of work.
And then last question for you is, if you could go back to the beginning of your career and give yourself some advice, what would you say?
Oh dear, yeah, that's the time machine question. I sometimes set that for my students. You have a time machine, go back and give Dennis some advice, and once you've done that, step 10 years forward and give me some advice. It's a good exercise. I usually get some really good stories out of it, and some suggestions. I think a lot of I tried to avoid the two-way conversions of the built-in types in C. I should have fought harder for that. I tried, but was stopped by the people in Bell Labs. And these were more experienced people than me and such.
It's even like
And I should have gone further there. Furthermore, I should have delayed the release of C++ till I could have something template-like, so I could do a better standard library. It wouldn't have been good enough, but it would have gotten people into the habit of using a standard. Everybody was building standard libraries, and we got saved by Alex Stefanov with the STL, but that was real luck, because I made a mistake in not delaying till I could have built a good vector and class hierarchy stuff. And then finally, if I'd known what I know now about standards committees and bloated bureaucracies, and we have more subgroups now than we had members to start out with, I would have tried very hard to set up some kind of steering group so that people could make suggestions, but we wouldn't have a vote with, say, 500 people. We would have suggestions from a community of 500 people, and we would have maybe a group of 5 or 6 people with vast experience and cared for the whole language, who made the decisions based on what was proposed.
The council. Interesting. Kind of like a republic. Not really. Yeah, democracy, man. Democracy.
Something like that. But I did not have the experience of.
I wonder why he can't do that now. I mean, not he, but like, I wonder why they can't do that now. I guess, like, how do you organize that? Like, it'd be easier for you to do if you were, like, the creator of the language back in the day. because like back then you had more control. But like from this position now, people wouldn't agree to that because then like they're throwing away power, and they don't want to do that. So,
knowledge to make such a suggestion. Notice that I did not mention tools. C++ has a weakness in tools, and that was because it grew up early in a time with limited tools, limited compute power, limited memory, so I couldn't have done it.
yeah.
One constraint on the exercise I give to the students for time machines is try and make sure that it will be possible to follow your advice.
Yeah.
And if I just said, I want this, then a lot of the things couldn't be done till 20 years later, and therefore would never have happened. There's a lot of languages designed to be perfect for the future computers and the future programmers. Most of them die because by
I want to look into those actually. Hold on.
to be perfect have happened. There's a lot of
Hold up, chat. Hold up. Advice for his younger self. I do like that Bjorn actually entertains this question, unlike other people I've seen who just say like, I don't care. The past is the past. Like no, like it's good to think about what you could have done better because like it's reflection, right? But then also like recognizing the limitations of the time, obviously, or maybe not obviously. A question or a wonder. Do I have that? I wonder what languages do currently exist that aren't implemented, but do have that are implemented due to technological limitations, but do have a genuine plan for how they would achieve perfection once possible. That's because like I haven't really heard of many languages like that. Usually when I see languages, they're all implemented, but for a language that isn't implemented and is just like simply conceptually perfect, what languages like that exist, I wonder, and how might we be able to revisit them in the future? I'm very, very, very curious because like what does the perfect programming language look like?
languages designed to be perfect for the future computers and the future programmers. Most of them die because by the time 10 years later they get the language, the world has changed.
Ah, okay.
On that first one, I imagine that.
That's interesting. So Bjarne says that even though these languages have existed, by the time it does become possible to implement them, they die due to the needs of modern times changing. That is very interesting.
That would have been really tough to do
But are there
because
any exceptions?
the Bell Labs people were
Who stand the test
so
of time.
senior.
I failed. I tried.
That first one, I imagine that would have been really tough to do because the Bell Labs people were so senior.
I failed. I tried. But it's obvious that you don't want narrowing conversions. I even wrote a paper about how to get rid of them today in a library last year. But it is a fundamental flaw in the type system of C and C++. And it came because they being people like Dennis Ritchie and the Unix team, so they needed to be able to handle both integers and floating point. And they didn't think of explicit type conversion, and they thought explicit type conversion was too clunky. They didn't actually get casts till about 5 years after they got floating point and integers. And of course you have to be able to turn a floating point into an integer, right? And so that you get implicit conversions whenever you can. Also things like integers into characters. Problematic, but since you are writing fundamental software, you didn't want to write something complicated, and you didn't want to have runtime checking. You couldn't afford that. And so it was established long before I came. And
yeah. Implicit conversions isn't just like a bug issue, it's a literal like fucking like just like a modeling issue, like a flaw. Like if you think about it conceptually from like a set's perspective, if something is a subset of something else, like let's say I have a set, and that set contains a subset. So like the subset by all means is within that set completely. So then to have a value inside my subset, that value is in both the subset and the big set. So let's say my subset is called A, and my big set is called B. Right, A is a B, B is not an A. So I can easily convert an A to a B with no issues. But I can't convert a B to an A, because to do that would be to narrow. Right? So like it's not just like a computational thing. It's like a literal conceptual error. Like it just doesn't work to like have implicit conversions from U64 to U32. You'll have to sacrifice something, and those sacrifices are going to cause issues. Yeah, it's a shame that's because like that's a really big issue with C++ and C. And something that new languages like Rust do try to catch, thankfully. Although they can be a bit too strict, I think, sometimes.
My attempts.
Because, like, again, with that model of the set within the set, right? Like, you do want to have implicit conversions be easy when you can, because there's no reason why they shouldn't, right? Like, there's no reason why a U32, which fits into U64 completely fine, can't just casually convert to U64. Maybe you want a warning if that happened. Like, oh, by the way, did you intend to do this? But like conceptually, it's completely valid. But like to turn a U64 to U32, that being implicit is just like it's just devilish, right? Like that should be explicit. So yeah, like yes, like force you to make conversions, narrowing conversions explicit, because they should be you should have to define a specific way that narrowing happens. But at the same time, don't then also make implicit conversions hellish either, because like that's not what we need to do. Like an example, to be fair, yeah, Java comes to mind. Java has some really funky conversion stuff. To the point where like you almost don't want to even like care about using like, you know, like U8s and U16s. Like you just want to use fucking longs for everything, because the conversion can be so annoying, especially in regards to like standard library stuff and generics and all that. But yeah, because you know, one way to achieve generic programming, let's say for integers, I want to have something that supports for both U8, U16, U32, and U64. Because U8, U16, U32 are all technically subsets of U64, you could have generic programming by converting everything to U64 instead, and then just doing your math that way, and then maybe converting back to a smaller number to narrow it afterwards. But then you have narrowing, and anyway.
To deal with that failed.
It sounds like it wasn't for no reason. It saves resources maybe, or very limited.
They didn't have the resources to deal with it. They built lint, the static checker, to deal with some of it. And small machines. Another thing was that that group of programmers was significantly smarter and significantly more experienced than the average developer today. We have the law of large numbers. I think the latest estimate I've seen on the number of software developers in the world is 47 million. And at that time, with Unix, the number of programmers probably was a few dozen, and the ones that didn't have a PhD from a good university were geniuses. It's easier to get a PhD than being a genius. And so they were for a different set of problems with a different set of machines and a different set of people. Boy, it was a pain, and still is.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Professor. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching this podcast. If you liked it and you want to see the show grow,
So
please
chill.
support with a comment or
Okay, thank you. I saw a YouTube short from Bjarne recently. Oh, here we go. Apple AI, finally. Fucking hell. I am curious about that. I wasn't scrolling YouTube Shorts. I just saw it on my home feed because it sneaks in there. And yeah, one of the comments was saying how like soft spoken he is, and how like nice he is. How much nicer he is than people expected, which I think is very cool. Because that was also my reaction when I first started watching videos by Bjarne, and now I really just love watching his interviews. I mean, like, look at that. I see Bjarne Stroustrup, I click. Man, Dennis Ritchie. Yeah, I do want to look more into these guys. I mean, I know a bit about Dennis Ritchie, but like Ken Thompson, I really don't know much about. Brian Kennigan, I've barely heard of, so. Yeah. I'm happy, you know? For a long time in my life, I felt like I didn't really have any heroes. Like, people like I like properly looked up to. But now I since like really getting into like programming and like more like academic literature, that kind of thing, I do like Bjarne is definitely one of my heroes, I would say right now. He's just so good, bro. He's so good. He's so good at doing interviews, and like he's so interesting, like with the ideas he brings and talks about. So anyway, enough about that. We're done with the video. I'm going to then turn these into some notes, which really shouldn't take too long. And I can, in the meantime, show you guys how I'm doing my Zettelkasten. So now a lot of these are just fucking like things I didn't know, like straight information facts. Those I don't care too much about to turn into Zettels, but anyway. So Bell Labs was best placed for applying maths and engineering in the past. There, Unix were developed. Yeah. So Bell Labs is definitely a place of interest. I mean, I think it still exists, but it's no longer like the thing it used to be. What are the Bell Labs of today? Good question. Yeah, the thing is, like, it's not just programming. I care more about the programming side of things. But yeah, Bell Labs, Unix. And, whoops. How did I even... What was I press? Okay. Beyond language distribute Linux, yeah. Similar OP classes, hands with classes, inequality PhD from Cambridge. I have this question. What was Bjarne's PhD in? Let's have a look. So Bjarne Stroustrup, PhD. Research on distributed computing by David Wheeler is a name I'm actually familiar with. Okay, wrong Wheeler. Fair enough. Have a look. Can I see his PhD? Like for my university of Liverpool, I'm able to see the PhDs my professor has worked on, my professors have worked on. Research papers. Here you go, Google Scholar. Right, yeah, I guess books count. By all means. But how about like research papers? Not so much like this kind of stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, like you have these. PhD, doctorate, Cambridge. No. Because like I'm wondering, like, let's say I want to get a PhD in something. Well, what would I write about? Yes, I'm human, and I'm not a evil person. Is ResearchGate the one that like unlocks things? Or is that research? I can't remember now. I should really have it bookmarked. I don't know why I don't have it. Like, this is a paper, right? It's interesting because, like, when I think of like research paper, I think of like physics experiments and like literature analyses and all that kind of thing, right? And like the scientific method. But like, you don't have to. I mean, you should follow the scientific method, but I mean, like, you don't have to like crazy like necessarily like that kind of thing. This is more like conceptual thinking. Like, this is more philosophy, right? Which, to be fair, a PhD is literally in philosophy. Like, this is like an article, right? It's not really a proper research paper. Preprint, article. Can I filter by article, by publication type? So what's Cantab? Oxon and Cantab. I'm guessing that's like Cambridge and Oxford. But why are they called that? Publications. Okay, I see. It's like I can't filter by for some reason. We have a conference paper for pattern matching and type switch. Article, paper. This note argues for a fairly classical undergraduate computer science curriculum where software takes a bigger role than is often the case. Interesting. 2009. Yeah, I do feel like programming isn't as big as it is in computer science, like degrees, even though it really should be. It's why I have like real big, not like nostalgia, because obviously I wasn't alive at the time, but like I really wonder what it would have been like if polytechnics were still around. Because like then I probably would have gone to a polytechnic and learned computer science or like programming there. I don't know. These are all conference papers. I'm really not finding like what's a research paper, you know? I'm actually struggling to find it here. Let's ask Claude. What was Bjarne Stroustrup's PhD paper? Communication and control in distributed computer systems, yeah. Can I get a link? Interesting. So it's not publicly available per se. That's his site. Hold on. Publications. No? Damn. What kind of dissertation is it? I'm wondering because my current idea of dissertations is very like science based and data analysis focused. Here's a problem, here's an architecture, here's how it works. Benchmarks, surveys, okay. So build and evaluate. Data system, implement it, and measures performance. Right. Which is important, by the way. Like, people should definitely document their attempts at designing systems. It's something I try to do, but not like academically. Maybe can I write papers? Like I guess I can't really publish them, can I? But like I could write them, by all means. I wonder what that would be like. I do look forward to that stage of my university career once I reach it. Anyway, he tried to write simulator and Simula, but it wasn't memory efficient enough. Yeah. I don't know this. Dennis Ritchie pointed to C++ as the obvious successor to C. Is that true? Is there a source for that? I mean, I assume it is true, but is there a source for it? This is the podcast I just watched, right? Yeah. Oh, cool. There's a transcript the whole time. I could have used that actually. That would be really useful. Okay. Shit. Next time. Okay, good to know. Did Dennis Ritchie call C++ the obvious successor to C? He was lukewarm about C++. Ritchie could critique Go? The fuck? With Ken Thompson and Rob Pike. Huh? Hold on. Dennis Ritchie died in 2011. I had no idea that Go was 2009. Okay, well, damn, that's crazy. So why did Bjarne say he did? Interesting. To have the quotes. I guess I might as well find it, right? $17. $59 here. In his Hubble paper. So the specific quote Whoops. I'm confused. How is pointing to it as the obvious successor, not calling it the obvious successor? Am I missing some like intricacy here? Okay. Oh, so yeah, I guess not the opposite thing either, right? Well, no. So yeah, he says the opposite successor. I don't know, man. Okay, let's have a look. doing a bit of research, I guess. Dennis Ritchie, Hubble paper. What is the Hubble paper? Yes, obviously. Is that what he said, word for word?
He was a great guy, and we talked about a lot of things. He never said anything rude or negative about C++. Actually, in his Hubble paper, he points to C++ as
Yeah, Hubble, sounds like it. Hubble. It might be a mistranscription then, and could be Hubble instead. Hubble and Hubble do sound alike. Fucking AI. Yes. It's only 16 pages. Is it cut short? No? Huh. The decision to use a single character equals for assignment instead of colon equals. That's interesting. C++ is resurrected the BCPL Common Convention, as did C. Later on, I guess. I didn't know that colon equals was considered. I like colon equals. I think it's very useful. I don't know why C didn't adopt it. That's crazy. Why does C++ have to make this conventional? Successors. More recent decisions of C proper include. Sorry, let me like zoom in. It's a bit fucking small, isn't it? include concurrency, Objective-C, C star, that's the one that I'll take off, and especially C++. The language is also widely used as the intermediate implementation and IR. Especially C++. Sorry, what did Claude say? I see. So it's a successor because it's literally under the successors. Okay. A bit vague, I guess, but sure. Interesting. Sorry, what is this thing actually about? Dennis Ritchie. Is there a year in this? There's no year for some reason. This is rather interesting. I'll look more into like I might have a look into that, but yeah. Anyway. Okay, so like not so okay. So like it wasn't like a strong like C++ is the obvious successor, but more just like it was a successor. Bjarne is responsible for a fair amount of C's design. Does achieve well C++ actually part of the committee. This is interesting. What does this tell me? Like, it's a case of someone the creator is disregarded as an expert because he passed his invention on to the community, and the community shunned him because he himself did not join the committee. I guess, I don't know. I wonder why he didn't join the C committee. Dennis proposed a fat pointer. Actually, let me just look it up. Why didn't Dennis join the C committee? Just look it up myself then. Fucking hell, these are not questions that have easy answers apparently, but like readily available answers. Hey, look, he passed away. This was 311. Herb Sutter's very cool blog. Oh, look at that documentary. Yeah, so in just like briefly in the documentary, you have Bjarne, right? You have Alexander Stepanov, huge, Anders Hesberg. Have you pronounced that name? But they got the creation of C# and TypeScript. Very interesting. Also Turbo Pascal, but like mostly, I actually know that C# and TypeScript were made by the same person anyway. So that's crazy. Andrei Alexandrescu, a name I vaguely know, but also can't pronounce properly. But yeah, NVIDIA, very cool. Andrew Koenig, don't know him, but he works at Bell Labs, or does even. And then these guys. Brian Kernighan is a name I know-ish. Probably because he did write the C programming language, and worked with Dennis Ritchie, right? Like it's usually like Dennis Ritchie and Brian. Yeah, that's right. I did recognize his face, so I'd love to see that in the interview. Chris Latner, creator of Mojo, which very cool. At first I was like, what? Why is Mojo here? And then turns out he also made LVM and Clang and Swift. I did not. I mean, obviously I knew that LVM and Clang were the same people. I had no idea that Swift was made by the same guy who made LVM. Nor did I know that Mojo was created by the same guy who made LVM. So that's crazy. Chris Latner is actually like kind of a goat because he made Clang and Swift and now Mojo. Like, holy moly, bro. Fun fact, Bjarne, no, fun fact, the guy who made the Clang compiler for C++ and LVM, the backend for many language compilers, also created Swift. And he is now creating Mojo, the language that looks like Python but is way more powerful. That is awesome. Yeah. So I mean, I I knew that because I've read this before, but like, it's still just amazing to me. Daniela Paparo, whatever. Got a guy from Microsoft here. Got a video game creator, co-creator of Doom and Quake, so very cool there too. Yeah. Anyway, gotta watch this, and yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, more questions. 5.1 was actually early C because it was 2 words. Back in Bell Labs, birth of imposter syndrome. Yeah, this is cool. People kept the door open so that they were open to talking. So, having a culture of physically keeping the doors to, of people physically keeping their office doors open, encourages people speaking to each other more often, and can be a great way to foster both a sense of community and belonging, but also a pool for genius to strike. A good example was Bell Labs back when Bjarne Stroustrup worked there. And was the reason that he was able to speak to so many people, who worked there. So many of the others who worked there, like Dennis Ritchie and others, that ended up playing a massive role in his life. Bjarne Stroustrup, crazy was this one, right? Hashtag. No. Colon? No. Hashtag colon. Fuck's sake. It's hard to type, bro. Okay. Door. Got it. So, open doors. Leaving doors open leaves people open to discussion, you could say. Yeah, communication, kind of like sociology in a way. Yeah. Bjorn claims he wasn't able to build the C++ he wanted back in the day due to technological things. Okay. So he says, do the best you can, see what works and what doesn't work, and then repeat. Bjorn support TCS DSLs. Yeah, first identify the problem and not just make something for the sake of it. Yeah. So when you want to make something, have a problem in mind that you want to target, right? You don't have to, but it's how you make good tools, right? Because they're effective tools. C++ being C compatible meant it was easier for people to adopt. So people have an easier time adopting a new thing if it builds off of an existing thing. That's actually quite good. People have a much easier time adopting a new idea or workflow if it builds on top of an existing one that they are familiar with. For example, the reason the main reason C++ was built to be C compatible back was originally was due to was because that it would mean easier adoption from C programmers, despite the and it was a conscious compromise given the technical baggage, given the issues that C came with, and still plague C++ to this day. Wrong thingy. There we go. Yeah, so this is like C++, C++, engineering, development. I think systems and sociology. Not even sociology, like psychology, like user psychology. Yeah, so ideas that build on existing ones are easier to adopt, for people to adopt and accept in general, right? But C++ is not object-oriented. Yep. Bjarne hates debugging. He prefers languages that, less debugging, more design. He's in favor of compile time resolution of bugs. Yep. So this is a good one, actually. Although longer compile times are often frowned upon in a language's design, in a programming languages design, it is worth noting, it is important to realize that if those longer compile times mean that more bugs are caught and explained to the user in a digestible manner, then overall less time is actually spent compiling and debugging, since the compiler needs to be run less frequently. To that extent, I really want a compiler that outputs some kind of like to-do list, because right now what I do is like, because like especially like with how like when you have like a list of errors and like you change it and like the line numbers will change because like you might add or remove new lines, I just recompile even though I already had the errors there. If you're just given like an actual like intractable list as opposed to a terminal output, that'd be really cool. That'd be a cool idea. Where the fuck do I write that? I really want to write that as like an idea somewhere. I'll put it here for now. Cool idea. A compiler that outputs errors as a to-do list, as an interactable to-do list. Intractable. No, what's interactable? Intractable. Is that not a word? It is. To-do list rather than a stream of errors. Sources: Bjarne Stroustrup. Yeah, so longer compile times means less compiling overall. So that would be programming, language design, not even, just programming, and like compilers. I want to change something real quick. In my templates, my atom card, I don't want a space there. Okay. That's it. Bjarne attributes the issues people have with memory safety in C++ to not using modern C++ tools. Yeah. Bjarne has a proposal for C++ 9 for the compiler to be more strict and disallow programmers from doing something by default. This is great. This would change C++ massively, and it's long overdue. Bjarne claims that C++ was never a dictatorship, and he never had full control over it. Yeah. Bjarne says that if C++ not be standardized, it likely would fade out as relevancy. So a standard is important. When Bjarne saw people claiming that Java would absolutely kill C++ in 2 years, he thought it was rude. Yeah. This one just resonates with me so much. The C++ study committee is underfunded, or is not funding at all, and this is a real limitation. Consensus is important when adding in features, as dialectal language should be prevented. Total unanimity is not necessary, but 90% of you safe. Yeah. Or as he said later on, just not having a democracy anyway. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of obvious. Like, you need people who have good judgment. I kind of make like an atom that's like says the C++ standing committee is underfunded. The speed at which C++ can develop and evolve is unfortunately heavily limited by its funding, as it is currently underfunded, if funded at all. That is, the C++ committee is underfunded. I find this strange, considering just how crucial C++ is to so many systems across the world. Clearly, our economic system is not sufficient for such important development to occur efficiently. That was this one, right? Again, so Bjarne. Yeah, so C++, obviously, economics. C++ is underfunded, hindering its growth, development. Bjarne wanted to automate resources management, like RAII. He didn't think garbage collection was an appropriate solution. Yeah. Developers and engineers should push back against poor judgment and outlandish requests from higher ups who do not understand the issue as well as they do. A good example is given by Bjarne's telling of the story of the Swedish Vasa, Bjarne Stroustrup's, which sunk due to being Russian development. Yeah. like just by like look at how quick it is to make these notes. By the way, like it really because they're atomic. It really does not take long. Ooh, leadership, maybe, or like collaboration even. I think I have one for that ready. Collaboration, sociology. Yeah. Developers should push back against poor leadership decisions. When possible. Obviously, you don't get fired, but do what you can, you know? Natural human language is ill-fitting for computer programming, just emphasize ambiguous nature. Yeah. I'm just gonna copy paste that because I can, and because it's really in my own words, and because I think I phrased it quite well, at least the first sentence. And it's the reason that many high status programmers, like highly skilled, highly experienced programmers of today are doubtful of how are doubtful of whether AI vibe coding with AI will actually be all that fruitful in the end. Is actually all that promising. So this is programming, of course, artificial intelligence, linguistics. Yeah, so natural human language is ill-fitting for programming. I wonder what languages existed. Brian says even though these languages existed, yeah, they change. That's cool. So I got 6 notes from that, and then also a lot of just historical lore and stuff like that. So very cool. So that's done. That's my latest entry. Where is it? It's here. Why is it there? Did I start? How long have I had this video in my backlog? Did I start doing notes on it before exams even started? Because that's crazy if so. Sort by modified time, please. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, there you go then, it's finally finished. So I do have other things to take notes from, which I will, of course. So, like, here I got my inbox, right? All these things to take notes of. I said I would do it, but I'm not going to do it right now because I kind of have other stuff to do. But I will get back on this. I promise. I promise. Also, I started working on this. I think I'll take some time to also, like, just kind of explore this further. Because I really want to make the perfect programming language, you know? It's a big goal, but it's something I just want to do. And kind of just, like, combine features from different languages in a way that synergizes well. And then some, because I'm quite interested. But yeah, I also got like all these notes from my fucking university days that ended like last month to like really just keep these in my notes because I do care about what I learned. I do care about what I learned generally, and I'd like to keep it if I can. Anyway, before I end this video, then just one last look at my Zettelkasten. Last look, a look, because I haven't looked at it yet. I guess programming, right? Where's the paper? That was that one. Here. No. Where is it? Here it is. Yeah, so here are Zettels. We got these 6. Very cool. And these link to programming. These link to other categories, which I haven't created yet, but They are there. Once I do create like more of these yellow category things, the stuff will be more interconnected. So I do want to get around to that. In fact, if I just show this, then that does it, doesn't it? So now you can see like C++ links to economics, which links to like fucking capitalist society prioritizing profits over people, and it being self-destructive, which is interesting because that definitely links to this, doesn't it? In fact, knowing that, I am going to make that note. One such example of how capitalism, of how our capitalist society is self-destructive. Awesome. So now I have that link, which is, to be fair, a link that I didn't think about, or like didn't like have in my mind. So looking at the graph is quite useful for that, I will say. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. It's really growing, my Zettelkasten. I'm very happy. It's growing a lot faster than I thought as well. Obviously, a lot of these are categories, but a lot of these are also the pinks, right? So that's cool. And in fact, I do want to do something else as well. I want to create note, like for these sources, I kind of want to have links for people as well, for like recurring people. Would that be useful? Like a Bjarne Stroustrup note. But like where would I put them? Like I kind of want to have like a people note, or like a people folder, so I can like keep track of people and their history. That might be interesting. Perhaps. Why though? I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe so then I can like contribute like to their Wikipedia and stuff like that. I don't know. But anyway, it's a thought. But yeah. So next up, I'm gonna be watching. Well, I don't know. I will now that I finished that video. The next video I have planned to watch is the C++ documentary. I would love to watch that. It's only like an hour long, so it's shorter than this interview, and I think it'll be very, very interesting indeed. Otherwise, I want to finally get around to reading the C++ core guidelines. I had meant to read it months ago, and I bookmarked it months ago, but I kind of forgot about it until recently because Bjarne keeps mentioning it, especially with profiles. So the core guidelines and his paper and whatever else on profiles. Those are the two articles I also want to have a look at. Well, I say articles. The core guidelines aren't an article per se, but yeah. Anyway, so I'll get around to that eventually. Until then, subscribe and tell me any other interesting thoughts you had from this interview if you were watching along with me. See ya.